Hi everyone, it's Johan here from 6CDS or Professional CPD, and the topic that we're going to tackle today is a presentation. Now, I find it strange that not a lot of people have been talking about it and how to structure a presentation, and I thought maybe this will be a good time for me to maybe give you some guidelines, tips, and some direction on how to structure your presentation. And when I say presentation, I mean your PowerPoint presentation. I'm not talking about your explanation, how you handle the interview or any of that kind of stuff. But let's just talk about the actual presentation. And it's important for you to structure your presentation in such a way that it gives you the best chance to illustrate, number one, that you can communicate effectively. Number two, that you know how to use technology. Number three, that you can do it in such an effective way that the reviewers would be able to give you a good, well, shall we call it mark, under category number 5. And as you know, category number 5, you will be evaluated by the reviewers on your ability to communicate. So let's just look at the actual presentation. What should be in there and how should you structure it? Now, I'm not saying this is how you should do it, but at least you will have some indication on how to start drafting and putting your presentation together. You don't necessarily have to use PowerPoint. You can use other applications as well. There are plenty of those. There are, even with modern AI, solutions that will draft most of the presentation for you if you feed it the right information and right prompts. But here's a quick and dirty, which I believe should help you when you start structuring your presentation and to do it effectively. Now, this is the tricky bit. You only got 15 minutes to do a presentation on the work that you've done, the levels that you've covered, all of those kind of information in 15 minutes. It's tricky, it's difficult. Very few candidates can stick to that. Most of them shoot over the 15 minutes. What's the worst thing that can happen? Well, they can cut you short and say, look, you've used all your time, so please wrap up so we can start the question and answer session. Some interviewers are more lenient and let you finish. But overall, if you can stick to, let's say, between 15 and 17 minutes, around about there, then that will be appreciated by them. I can assure you that. So timing is a major issue. Rushing through it's a major issue. Laboring it too much is another issue. Talking too much is another issue. Not talking to the slides, another issue. What do you put into the presentation? You know, those are the items that you really need to give some attention to. So I'm going to go through what I believe could work for you. Have a look at it, and then feel free to use it as a template if you should see fit. But yeah, I think it's time to address this issue. So let's just dive into it, straightforward. Okay, the proposed presentation structure and time allocation. Now let's look at the time. So you need to have an introduction. So take your introduction, 2 minutes. That will be sketching the background and also the motivation for registration. Just a note here, this motivation for registration, you can put it up front or you can put it at the end. And the reason why I'm saying that, by telling the interviewers why you want to be a professional engineer, eliminates the question that they're going to ask you later, is why do you want to be an engineer? So you can address it up front. Item number 2, training and experience reports. Spend about 3 minutes on that, which will be a summary of the key projects that you worked on and the progression and your responsibilities during that time. Item number 3 would be engineering report overview. Spend about 4 minutes on this. This is quite important. The key projects that you worked on, the problem solving that you've done, the calculations that you've used, and then also compliance matters. including site experience. Projects worked on, spend about 4 minutes on that. You can obviously overshoot it a little bit because explaining the projects is quite necessary for you to go into more detail. Talk about the projects that you worked on, the smaller and other supporting projects where you covered other outcomes, the challenges that you faced on these projects, the technical compliance and the technical issues that you've dealt with. And then number 5, which will be your conclusion, and then the Q&A. Spend a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes, on the key takeaways and the readiness for your professional registration. So that's from a timing point of view, how you should handle it. But let's now go a little bit more detail and let's talk about the introduction. Right, you're going to spend 2 minutes on it. So first thing, who are you? Put your name down, your engineering discipline, years of experience, and then also your candidate registration number. Or if you are registered in a different category, please also include that. Then, as I said, you can put it in here or you can do it in the last slide. Why do you want to become a professional engineer? So you can move that one around. They're going to ask you this question, so answer it up front. Here are some tips for you. Because you've got a passion for engineering and problem solving that goes with it. Innovation is your passion. Commitment to ethical and professional standards. That's a nice one for outcome number 8. Contribution to society, industry, and the sustainability of the environment that you're working in. You can talk about your career advancement, leadership opportunities, and obviously remuneration. You will obviously get paid more if you're professionally registered, so you're marketable more than a non-professional engineer. You can also talk about mobility and then also the exposure that you get as a professional engineer. Then you conclude your introduction by the purpose of the presentation. It is good to set the scene, and that's demonstrating competency for professional registration. So that is that contextualizes why you're there, and it's good communication. Moving over to training and experience reports, spend about 3 minutes on that and talk about the project categories that you've worked on or the actual projects. You can play around with that. The project categories, you can categorize them in design and development, which is outcome 1, 2, and 3. Investigation and problem solving, you can group it under there. Implementation and evaluation, you can group some under there. Risk, safety, and environmental considerations, you can also label that during this slide. This is not cast in stone, so you could literally talk or give an overview of all your training and experience reports, like you've done in your training and experience summary, so that the interviewers can at least see what you've worked on and sort of place you in the full life cycle of a project. Then your next key area will be a summary of your key projects. Now, when I say summary, explain your role and responsibilities. The progression during that time from level A being introduced into the environment all the way up to level E, and that is taking full independent work. And now remember, you can only register as a professional if you have at least 1 year operating on level E and a minimum of 3 years experience. Then talk to the challenges and lessons that you've learned on these projects, especially when there was failures, now you handled that. Technical and ethical considerations should go in here as well. Now from a visual point of view, here's some tips for you. Use a table summarizing the projects and ECSA outcomes covered. So that is a nice way to contextualize it or to tableize it, for lack of a better word. Use photos, use drawings and schematics to better understand, or shall we rather say better convey the message over to the panel. So moving along to your 4th point, which is the engineering report and the overview of that. Also break it down to 4 minutes. That's probably going to take you longer, but that's just the nature of how it is. Firstly, look at the project selection. When it comes to project selection, then please use the most technical, complex project, right? The one that had the most challenges, the most complex one, and the one that you had to solve the most difficult engineering problems. Now remember, for the mechanical engineers, you need to at least focus on one full design project. Just bear that in mind. So complexity is key. Then key engineering problems that you have addressed. Describe the technical challenges that you encountered, the constraints that you had to work with. There's a program that I did on the outcomes where it talks to the constraints. Regulations that you followed. Talk to the SANS, talk to ISO, talk to the Health and Safety Act, the construction regulations. Talk about the NEMA Act, talk about the environmental issues, talk about sustainability. All of those kind of things. Please bring it in. It's important. Then your next point will be your approach to solving solutions. So please talk to solution approach. How did you approach the problem and how did you solve it? That's very important. Conceptualize design. Show various models. I've said CAD here, but you can use any models. Flow diagram, circuit designs, etc. So there's quite a few that you can bring in here. It's good to showcase that. Engineering calculations, very important, especially for technologists and technicians. Present key formulas, material that was analyzed, energy efficiencies that you considered, and then also look at the performance comparisons that will help you illustrate why you made certain decisions based on your calculations. Then validation and testing. It's important to showcase how you've used simulations to support your design. Prototyping is another one that you can use. You can use real world testing as well. So there's really quite a bit that you can bring in here. And it's also nice to support your problem solving through testing. Then let's talk about the economy. So you need to understand and know about budgets, finances, issuing of certificates, payments. So you need to bring that in somewhere, and here's your opportunity to bring it in. Under your engineering report, talk to the environmental issues. You're not an environmentalist per se, so the project team, the specialist within it, the environmental specialist, how you have consulted with them. Then the social impacts, important to talk to the environmental and social impact. Some of the impacts that you also can highlight, you illustrate how you mitigate the impact on the population or the environment. What were the social impacts? What were the costing modules? Who benefited at the end of the day? Local communities, all of those kind of things that you can bring in. So talk to sustainability, cost effectiveness, and then we always have to talk about the BBBEE impact. How did it affect your design and your construction? We also know the construction mafia. There's all these wonderful things going on. Now for the visuals in this case, I would suggest you use engineering drawings and schematics. You can pull that in. Table for your calculations, you can bring that in, and then simulation results. There's lots that you can bring in here because you've seen the results, so you can bring it in. You might think, yeah, but I'm going to run out of words. That is a real problem. You can, however, use these illustrations and photographs as annexures, or you can put it into your TRs and your engineering report. So bear that in mind. It's nice to give it some flavor, nice to give it some volume. Visuals always goes a long way than just the text. Right, I've spoken about the tables for your calculations, and I've spoken about the results. And when I say results, also bear in mind they're going to ask you what was your thinking, so you need to also illustrate that. Number 5, other projects worked on. Now be careful with working on 2 or 3 projects at the same time and calculating or adding those weeks. You're going to end up with more weeks than there are in the year. I spoke about that in one of the previous episodes. Please stay away from that. You will not be successful if you do that. Right, so the other projects that you worked on, please highlight 2 to 3 additional, you can add more, projects that you worked on and the variety of experience that you've gained on those projects. It goes a long way. Then also challenges and problem solving on those additional projects that you worked on. What were your role? How did you address safety, ethics, risk and compliance? How did you deal with them on those other projects? Then the lessons that you've learned from those projects, and then also your professional growth. Professional growth is very important. A, being exposed to the environment. E, operating independently. Same as a professional, you just can't sign off. Then you also need to, in this slide, at least somewhere bring in or pull it all together on how the 11 outcomes were addressed and applied to these projects that you worked on. So you can play a little bit around with that one and try and see, where can they fit in, how can you cross-reference, do you need like footnotes to say it's outcome 1, 2, and 3, or whatever the case might be. Play around with it. Then the progression, which is the one I've labeled on before, where you've started being exposed to the environment, people assisting you, and how you've moved up the ranks to level E, which take full responsibility for your projects and with limited, if any, supervision. That natural progression needs to be illustrated so you can show it in these little projects or additional projects or multiple projects that you've worked on. When we talk about your visual aids here or some visual flavor that you want to bring in, I say it again, photos and real world implementation is great. People like to see that what you've designed is now in construction and that's not what it looks like, and how it's now finalized and hand over and what it looks like also goes a long way. Show your risk analysis tables. They ask that question, how did you do that? And then your performance graphs as well. You can bring that in. That's also a good illustration. Now let's look at your last slide. Conclude by the key takeaways. Just summarize it, pull it all together, summarize the project contributions, competencies and professional responsibilities. So you bring it all together. Readiness for professional registration. We spoke about it in the beginning. You can also just reinforce it here by stating confidence in handling complex engineering problems, ethics and leadership, just as a quick little thing that goes on there. Your final motivation, commitment to lifelong learning. Why? Because you're going to do CPD, continual professional development, when you're professionally registered, so your commitment is imperative while you're a candidate. Then engineering excellence and public safety. It's a nice way to pull it together. Then you thank the interviewers for their time, and you open, or the chairman will then open for the question and answer session. All right, so that's in a nutshell. I will see if I can't in future maybe I have a real example, but with the POPI Act it's extremely difficult to do. I'll see if I can't get some templates that I can maybe, add some way for you to use. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with that. Spend some time on the internet using AI to draft presentations for you that you can select from that you think will work the best. The death by PowerPoint is totally out, so please have slides that move. Keep it consistent, keep the text consistent, keep the text format consistent, size consistent. When you transition between the various slides, keep it consistent, make it interesting. It is good for stuff to fly in and out, but not too much. Also, don't cram it. Less is more in this case, but have the presentation open at the bottom so that you can refer to your notes that you would like to incorporate. So bear that in mind as well. Make it interesting and informative and also engaging. It's not the easiest thing to do. No, the best thing that you can do after you've pulled that together, let other people critique it, and then you need to spend time repeating it, acting it, presenting to your friends, presenting to yourself, all of those kind of things. So this is just a quick and dirty. I hope it helps. If you need more information or more assistance, then let me know. But I think this should at least, get you going. Okay, thank you for your time, and we shall meet again. Take care.